and he started explaining low carb, and he put me onto low carb down under. And that was really the pivotal moment. So I started making these changes, but it was so challenging because I was so heavily sugar addicted. So I started researching how to make cheesecake, but keto friendly. And at this point, I'm like, oh my gosh, this fat, I can't eat this much fat. I'm going to die a fat clogged death because, fat kills you, right? So yeah, at this point, I'm just trying to find substitutes. And actually, that has been the core of what I do and what I teach is, okay, how the heck do you get off sugar?
Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the Metabolic podcast. Now today I'm joined by my very special guest, Emma Martin, otherwise known as the Lazy Keto Mum. And Emma is joining us today to give us her story, her background. So thank you, Emma, for joining us.
You're welcome. I'm excited. It's really great to be here. Thank you. I think the more we can spread this and share with other people, the better.
Absolutely. Now, Emma, you are a qualified coach and nutritionist. I've got to read my blurb here. Educator and trainer specializing in health, wellness, and real food space. So definitely suitable for our channel today. You mentor people and you speak at transformational tips with mindset, fat loss, eating more, moving more, self-sabotage, and lots of other educational topics as well that you cover. You've been featured in places like Quit Sugar Summit and the Keto Life, plus other numerous workshops and events, including your very own keto retreat, which I was very grateful to have the opportunity to attend this year, which was amazing, and I learned a lot.
Yeah, I think when we surround ourselves by people who are on the same journey, you might have heard something before, but then we go, oh, wow, yes. So yeah, it's always better just to be surrounded by the tribe, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Emma, maybe if you can give our listeners and viewers a little bit of background about yourself, tell us your story.
Well, it's my 5-year keto versary, just passed actually, mid-August
Well,
2018. I was struggling. Well, actually, that's when I found keto. But before that, I was pre-diabetic. I just didn't actually know really what that meant. And I think a lot of your listeners will probably be in a similar boat. I was struggling with cravings. I was a really moody bitch. I had road rage. Looking back, I just kind of thought all that was normal, And I think you mentioned this when we recorded the podcast the other day, you and I, about just thinking that you were destined to kind of, that was your lot in life. And I'd started wearing stretchy pants, you know. God, I'm like my grandma. Both of them actually were wearing stretchy pants. I just didn't understand why I was struggling, and it was nothing for me to devour a loaf of white bread, um, slathered with butter and Vegemite, and I didn't have the control to stop at one or two slices. I was just always hungry, always chasing. So I bumped into a doctor. I didn't really bump into him. I went to see him because I was struggling, and my other doctor was on leave. And this doctor, I'm like, I just don't understand why I'm struggling. He goes, all right, well, let's do some blood tests, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, he explained to me, Dr. Ken Wilkie, his name was, and he's retired now. He was about 10 kilometres north of me in Brisbane. And he started explaining low carb, and he put me onto low carb down under. And that was really the pivotal moment. So I started making these changes, but it was so challenging because I was so heavily sugar addicted. So I started researching how to make cheesecake, but keto friendly.
hmm,
And, at this point, I'm like, oh my gosh, this fat, I can't eat this much fat. I'm going to die a fat clogged death because, fat kills
of
you, right?
course, yeah.
So yeah, at this point, I'm just trying to find substitutes. And actually, that has been the core of what I do and what I teach is, okay, how the heck do you get off sugar?
Mm,
How the heck do you still have the stuff that you love and make sure you're not spiking your blood sugar? And I think one of the pivotal moments was going, oh, wow, it's about insulin and it's about blood sugar. And when I understood that every time I spiked my blood sugar by the stuff I was eating, my pancreas released insulin and I was in fat storage mode. And I went, okay, I can do that. So yeah, the first few days I don't think were very pleasant. I think I must have banged my head on the car door 3 times in one day. Oh, that was fun. But yeah, I just got really positive about sharing because, like you, I just went, oh my God, is this how I'm supposed to feel?
mm,
I don't remember feeling this way in my whole adult life. And I think you used the word
yeah.
superhuman. And I know exactly what you meant because I remember ringing my partner at the time going, I feel like I could run a marathon. And I don't run, Suresh. I hate
Oh,
exercise
same.
unless it's like rollerblading or bushwalking. Yeah, if it's called exercise. You don't call it exercise, I'm all right. What about
Yeah, no,
you?
I'm not. I mean, I like working out, but I hate cardio. Hate it with a passion. Always hated it. Working out, I like, but yeah, weights I'm good with, but yeah, exercise otherwise hate it.
I think when it's not called exercise, it's easier to handle. But I think, understanding that you eat less and move more were just so wrong and so flawed. And I'd been to Weight Watchers back and forth. I don't know. So my daughter was 6 months
Mm.
old and I joined. So she's 19. She just comes home to forage and use the internet
Yeah,
these
sounds about
days.
right.
That's about right. Oh, and sleep. So yeah, I remember wheeling her in a pram to try and stick her in so she wouldn't move around through this Weight Watchers meeting. And that was the very first time they wouldn't let you join before your baby was 6 months old because, obviously feeding babies and all of that sort of stuff. And I remember going to this Weight Watchers meeting and just going, they weigh you and it's just the whole shame stuff. And I felt
Mm.
like such, yeah. And I'm sure you guys listening can relate to that. And I know you definitely can, Suresh. It's when you don't know and you weighing everything and you're measuring everything and it's exhausting.
Mm.
I liked Weight Watchers because I could have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but inevitably I'd end up cheating myself because you're counting points,
Yeah.
right? So I'd end up just, cheating or misweighing. I'm cheating
Decimal
myself.
points. Decimal points.
Yeah. And then I didn't understand what nutrition
Yeah.
meant. But yeah, it was decimal points. And, I'd put in 1 square of chocolate when I'd eaten half of the block, I don't know who I thought I was helping,
Mm.
but I just didn't have that willpower. So yeah, I'd been on and off Weight Watchers for ever. And then when I started watching the Low Carb Down Under YouTube channel, I was like, oh, wait, okay. And I found Jason Fung
Mm.
and I found Eric Berg. And then I started I started making all the little changes. So yeah, and Keto Cheesecake.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I know Dr. Lucy Burns, I think, spoke about at the Low Carb Roadshow that they put on with Mary Barson, and the shame around kind of Weight Watchers and diet culture. She did a talk on that, which was an excellent talk. That is something that we certainly do here. So your kind of foray, your journey into keto really came to try and just get a bit more control over your sugar. Sounds like.
Yeah, I was just getting fatter and fatter
Right.
and grumpier and grumpier. And I don't think I realized, we've been told to eat. My whole diet was like there was pasta and rice, and I was following the food pyramid. And I just didn't understand that they turned to sugar in our bodies. Like, I don't think that had ever been
Mm.
explained. And I remember going to a doctor, oh gosh, wow, 20 years ago, before Hannah was born, going, I'm struggling with my weight. I just don't know what to do. And she's like, oh, it's what you put in your mouth, dear. But sure, it was, but she couldn't clarify that. And I think one of the most exciting things coming forward now is seeing doctors actually understand what it is, and watching that groundswell of change, and you guys pushing, not pushing, you guys moving that groundswell, because everybody listens to their doctor. You guys are educated and you are, I know, but that's the thing. We believe our doctor's going to be able to help us,
Mm.
but I genuinely don't know that some doctors even understand that. So that's what makes me so excited for this journey for humanity, you know.
Yep.
I'm just so passionate about saying to people, it's not your fault. What you were told to eat is actually setting you up for failure. So I think, I was snacking on what I thought was great, but it turns out, that donuts might not have been the
Maybe
best
not the best.
choice
No.
nutritionally. So yeah, I just I made substitutes for all the things that I liked, and slowly switched over. So from rice, we started to use cauliflower rice, and I started having cream in my coffee
Mm.
instead of milk.
Yeah, it's a different
Whoa,
taste, isn't it?
absolutely. It's so satisfying. And then all of a sudden, I found I wasn't hungry anymore.
Mm.
Like, oh, what's this? And I wasn't eating until, 12 o'clock. And I'm like, oh, I'd never been able to do that before. I'd always been, hungry, hangry,
Mm.
looking for the next meal. And I think one of the freeing things was not being a food slave.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can relate to
Oh,
that.
absolutely, 100%. It's very, very freeing not having to worry about, when you're next eating and what are you eating, and I got to finish now. I got to go rush home, go to the shops. Do I go to shops before I go home? All this kind of stuff. You're just constantly thinking about your next meal. It's very freeing when you don't have to anymore, for sure. Um, you mentioned there that you kind of Weight Watchers and that diet kind of culture. It was all about counting. It was points in Weight Watchers. How did you find then going into keto? Because one complaint we do hear about keto, one of the ways I struggled with keto was the counting, was the macros and the counting the sugar and that side of things. How did you find that?
I have probably tracked, so I've been on this journey for 5 years. And I fall off every now and again, but I'm not that food slave anymore, but I've certainly fallen off. I haven't really tracked. I tracked for maybe 2 days of my 5 years. I think just because I was eating a lot of fat and protein, I just wasn't really hungry. And I knew I needed to switch out carbs. I knew I needed to get rid of sugar. And I knew that sugar came under many, many names. And somebody in the very beginning, they told me, okay, 5 ingredients or less above the ground veg. And I just followed
Mm.
that. So now I just teach pick a protein, add a healthy fat above the ground veg. And that sort of has migrated to now where I don't even really eat the little bit of veg. Like tonight, I had beautiful pan-fried salmon. I cooked that in butter and olive oil, some beautiful quality salt. And then in my other pan, I shredded some cabbage. And what else did I have? I've got some zucchinis in my garden, but I could have easily just eaten 6 slabs of salmon.
Mm.
So yeah, I haven't really tracked. And I've lost, I don't know, 5 jean sizes. I was wearing an 18 jeans
Wow.
stretchy pants, and I now wear an 11.
Wow.
So that's been, I don't know, a size a year, I suppose. And if I'd tracked, I would have been there faster. But at the end of the day, this is now about my health, not about the weight.
Yeah. Do you think that it could have derailed your progress had you actually spent that time and effort counting?
Yep. I absolutely do, because I found if I want to do a longer fast, if I think, right, I'm going to do a fast, all of a sudden I'm flipping hungry.
Yeah.
Whereas just if I don't think about it, I'm like, actually, you know what? I don't need to eat yet. No, I don't need to eat yet. No, I don't need to eat yet. And next minute, I've, had a 24-hour fast. So, yeah, I absolutely think it would. But some people, I think, maybe do need to track.
Mm.
I just think that our ancestors didn't track. They went and got a beast. They ate as much as they flippin' could of this beast. The rest they turned into bone broth or, casseroles, and cooked it on their fire or whatever. And they ate until that, maybe they preserved some. And they ate until that beast was
Yeah.
gone. They didn't track anything. So, look, I think tracking maybe is useful when you get to a point where your body's like, nah, I'm hanging on. But then, you've got all the stress stuff and the gratitude stuff and, the actual getting out and walking in the sunshine stuff too. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I struggled a lot with keto, with the tracking, with the macros. And I mean, I was always the loophole guy. I've spoke about this on my channel before. Like, it was like, oh yeah, well, I can have 40 grams of carbs, or I can have 50 grams of carbs, or some people can do keto and do 70 grams. So, well, if some people can do it, I can do it. So then I'd eat 70 grams, and so for me, the counting was always really hard because I would be that person that's like, yeah, like I've only had 30 today, or I can have going 20. I'd be like, hey, 20 grams of sugar. There you go. Because I'm allowed, which doesn't really kind of work. So I always struggled with the counting, but a lot of people do have issues with that. But yeah, that's why I find carnivore really freeing. So I know you're kind of venturing in almost towards that, aren't you, yourself now?
Yeah, some days I just eat pork belly. Oh, it's literally like some days I just cook a steak in butter and olive oil, and actually it's so satisfying and so tasty. I broke my knee. I fell down the stairs at the Performing Arts Complex. I don't know why I'm laughing. It wasn't very funny. I actually went down 2 flights of stairs. And I remember hearing myself going, ooh, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. I got to the bottom. My eyes were closed, and I opened my eyes, and there's all these people around me going, are you okay? I'm like, actually, I don't know. And then I'm like, oh, my knee actually hurts a bit. So yeah, I broke my knee. I like to call it my Nutella. So I think it's the patella. So yeah, I fractured that. And I actually went full carnivore for about probably 3 weeks after that. And my gosh, it healed fast.
Yeah, wow.
I don't think I've ever healed so fast from anything.
Isn't that great?
So yeah. So I was on like just a crutch for a little bit, but I think moving when you've got something like that going on is probably useful as well. But, and I mean, you would know more than me, probably the lack of inflammation from when you're just eating meat and cream in your coffee, I guess. So,
yeah, I mean, lack of inflammation, but also all those extra proteins, the fat, the cholesterol, all these things like cholesterol, they're so important even for healing. I was here listening to a podcast actually this morning. I know it's on the way back from work, Dr. Paul Saladino's podcast, and he was talking about, cholesterol, and he made a good point. And I've said this before to my patients as well. Look at patients with diabetes; they get the tiniest cut on their foot, and you end up having to amputate their leg. That's an extreme example, of course, but and that's not necessarily infection. It's just they just don't heal very well. And inflammation, metabolic health is such an important factor when it comes to healing. So is that why you went carnivore, to just try and heal quicker, or was it just happy coincidence?
Yeah. Well, it was a bit of both. I had heard, I think I heard you speak actually at the Brisbane Low Carb Road Show. And I'd also heard who's the Plants Q, Anthony Chaffee.
Yes, Chaffee, yeah.
I had heard him speak at Low Carb Down Under, and I'd started listening to some podcasts and things like that. And I was like, okay, well, I know going carnivore means that I'm going to heal really fast. And actually, like, I cut my finger this morning. I sliced my finger on something I was washing up. It's literally stuck itself back together like in a day. It's ridiculous how quick it can heal. So yeah, I actually did, when I broke my knee, I was like, okay, when I eat cauliflower or something like that, if I eat it raw, it doesn't agree with me. And sometimes macadamias and things like that are the same. So I'm like, okay, well, there's a key there. So I suppose it was the next step in my journey. And so the only reason actually I'm eating zucchini at the moment is because they're growing in my garden. Other than that, I'd be quite happy with, a big slab of salmon and I haven't actually purposely gone carnivore except for when I did my knee, and I just feel so much better when I'm not eating huge amounts of greenery.
Yeah, isn't that funny though? I mean, we're so indoctrinated, we're so, kind of pushed to eat vegetables, to eat plants, that this is really good, and yet actually when we don't, people often find improvements.
Absolutely. Like when I eat spinach, I don't know if you get the same, but it's sort of chalky on my
Yeah,
teeth.
don't like it.
Like yeah, my body just goes, no, no, we don't like
Yeah.
that. And I'm a little bit the same with mushrooms. And one thing keto has given me, and lazy keto mum came from okay, you don't need to be strict for this. That's where the title came from. Because, like you were saying, if there's a loophole, I'll find it. I think when we go hell for leather on a diet, it's so easy to fall off. Whereas if you let yourself have a little bit of a stretch and a little bit of a slip, but you know how to deal with that and you know how to get back on, I think that's where the sustainability comes in. So I've learnt to listen to my body over the last 5 years. And I remember the Weight Watcher lady. Well, I've had many teachers in Weight Watchers because I've been back and forth for hundreds of times, never quite getting successful. And I remember her saying, "Just listen to your hunger signals." I'm like, I don't even know what that
Mm.
means. I can't tell when I'm full. And learning about leptin and insulin and how they all work together, and it's like, oh, right. So for the first time in my life, I actually have those hunger cues. And I have those like that cauliflower. If I eat a floret raw and I'm going, okay, I don't feel good.
Mm.
I don't know about you, but I've never been able to experience that
Yeah, no.
until now.
Yeah, I mean, hunger signals. I mean, it doesn't help that these are hijacked, by companies. I'll never, forget it whenever people look at me like, "Really?" And like, I always mention this. The old Pringles advert. Once you pop, you can't stop. Quite
True.
literally proud of the fact that they were trying to get people addicted. I mean, it literally is on the advert. We want you to be. They're so addictive that you can't stop, and this was seen as a good thing somehow. It's absolutely crazy. Um, so let's talk a little bit more about the keto and these keto cheesecakes, because I know you do like online classes, you do online cooking lessons. Like how does that all work, and how did you kind of get into doing all of that?
Well, firstly, it was just finding substitutes. And I just plugged my favorite recipes into Google and I'd put in keto cheesecake or keto donuts. I've had a lot of fails and it was quite expensive actually. So when I sort of perfected a lot of the recipes, I borrowed a bit from here and a bit from there and some of the stuff my grandma had taught me. And I actually started making TikToks. And as I was making all these TikToks, I'm like, people started coming and going, can you make this? Can you make this? And I'm like, probably. So I started to put all these recipes together. And at this time, COVID started, it broke out. And I was a bra fitter. I'm like, we couldn't get close to people. I'm like, gosh, what am I actually going to
Mm.
do? I'm like, I'm going to write a book. So I wrote my book, Confessions of a Cheesecake Lover, through COVID. And there's a ton of recipes in the back, and they're all stupid simple. And so people, they were buying the book, they were doing the recipes, and they're like, oh, that's how I make jam, keto jam without the blood sugar spike. It's come under a little bit of fire, I suppose, because you've got the keto purists that go, oh, no, no, you've got to be clean, blah, blah. But Suresh, if I hadn't had the replacements, I wouldn't be here today.
Right, you're talking like sweeteners and monk fruit stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like the monk fruit and I use a liquid stevia in, say, my coffee. And I don't really eat much sweet stuff anymore. I've wanted it less and less. But the very fact that they were in my fridge meant that I wasn't becoming obsessed because I couldn't have
Mm.
them. So I don't know about you, but the minute I can't have something, I want it. I don't know what it is with that.
Mm.
It's like if I just become obsessed by it, so it's like fasting. If I'm fasting, I
You
can't
just
do
want the
it.
food,
But
yeah.
if I'm
I think it's human nature.
exactly.
It's just the forbidden fruit, isn't it? We all want what we can't have. I think that's a good point, though, and I do want to maybe just expand on that a little bit. So, sweeteners, it is something that comes under fire a little bit. And I know we spoke a little bit after we recorded the podcast for your podcast last week, which you were gracious enough to invite me on to. We spoke a little bit about sweeteners there as well off the record, but this is something that people do get concerned around. The quality of sweeteners, and are they really that good for you? Are they really bad for you? I know I've done a video about erythritol as well on my channel. I think that what we have to remember is context is king.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what you're
Yeah.
saying there, really, isn't it?
I absolutely agree. And I think, if you're going to eat fat bombs, you're going to exclusively eat fat bombs, you're probably not going to get to your goals because of the sweetener, because of the amount of fat and whatever. I think if you're making keto treats or you're using keto sweetener, you're right. It's all about the amount and how much of each thing you're having. So, for example, if I'm making, say, a keto cheesecake, I probably would eat maybe a square inch by inch, like an inch by an inch. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm not eating huge amounts. I'm not eating a half a cheesecake every day. And I understand why some people might struggle with, the word portion control doesn't even enter my vocabulary now, but I think you understand and your listeners understand what I'm trying to say. If you're going to eat just keto cheesecake, you're going to have issues. Not to mention erythritol and maybe what it's doing to the gut, etc. However, I think if you're going to use sweeteners, choose them wisely. So you choose one that doesn't spike your blood sugar. And if you're going to, I tested them. I tested my blood sugar. I was checking my ketone levels. So I had a blood sugar monitor. I've worn a blood glucose monitor, a continuous one, on and off over the last 5 years. You probably have too. They're terrifically useful. And I found that different things spiked me a little bit. But as long as I had plenty of protein and plenty of healthy fat in that, a little bit went a very long way. So and bit by bit, my tastes changed. So I'm now, I had some macadamia butter the other day, and I put it in my mouth. I'm like, my gosh, that is so sweet.
Yeah.
So now I'm at a point where I'd probably use that as a sweetener. So I think there are useful replacements.
Yeah.
And I just think that sometimes the keto police are a little bit brutal.
I think they can be. What is it? Voltaire said, perfection is the enemy of good. I think that's the phrase. I think that is true. Context really is king. And I see people, they come in and I really want to do carnivore, but I just don't know if I can just eat ribeye steaks for the rest of my life every single meal. And I'm like, dude, you don't have to.
You could eat mince for 30 days.
You could eat mince for 30 days and go absolutely stir crazy like I have. You don't need to go kind of so regimented. You don't need absolute perfection. I think sweetness have a role, yeah.
The other thing too is that my daughter, so I was making these cookie dough balls, and so they're almond flour or almond meal. They are a little bit of sweetener. They're dark chocolate, so 90% lint, and I would just chop that up, and butter. And my daughter, I would make a double batch of those. I'd put half in the freezer, and they're like a cookie dough ball size. You didn't even have to cook them. She would eat it with a spoon out of the fridge. And so for somebody who isn't strict keto like my daughter, wow, for it to impact her life and her face cleared up as she got off, sugar, her face cleared up, her hormones cleared up. I'm 51 or something. She's 18, 19. You can imagine we were clashing. At that point, I'm late 40s. She's 14, and we were both hormonal. So for her to have that treat, and she'd come home and she'd grab a couple of cookie dough balls, and because of the filling nature of them, almond meal, butter, dark chocolate, she's now got this gazam of everything that's kind of good for her in one foul swoop. So yes, I am an advocate of having them there, especially when you've got a family.
Yeah. No, like you said, Cole, like I said, context is king, really, and we see this with things like cheat meals. What's your take on cheat meals for keto, low carb, carnivore?
I don't love the idea of cheating. I think you can rephrase that and call it having a slightly looser kind of day. Like if I'm going, let's say we go down the pub, um, and rather than having just a steak or something like that, I'll always eat my steak first or my salmon first. I'd have a couple of chips. I know they're not very good for me, but I'll make sure I've eaten the steak. And then, there's maybe an aioli or a mayonnaise. Now, I know damn well that they're made with canola oil and probably have a bit of sugar. But if I'm eating my protein first, I know I'm going to negate somewhat the effects of that crap stuff that I'm putting in my face. And then if I am having, say, a cheat day. I mean, I had nachos about 2 weeks ago, and boy, did I felt it. I was back to my moody, crabby self. Well, that's not me anymore, but back then I was foggy. I couldn't think clearly, and so the next day I'm like, okay, I know I'm going to struggle. So lots of salt, lots of water, lots of protein, and they're the days I'll go carnivore if I've kind of had a inverted commas cheat day. I prefer to think of it like, you know what, I've just made a different choice and tomorrow I'm back on. I also think it's a terribly slippery slope because then you're kicking in the sugar cravings and, away you go again. And then all of a sudden, what's sustainable lifestyle? So that's my take on that. I also think if you're at a friend's place and, they're making lasagna, eat the meat
When in
first
Rome.
and then see if you want the pasta. Yeah,
Was it
sorry.
when in Rome? Just yeah. No, I
Yeah,
think I would agree. I don't think I think the idea of a cheat day, it has a very negative connotation as well. It's
yeah,
very negative psychology. Just call it a relaxed day, and I
yeah.
think that's perfectly fine. Do you think keto gave you that kind of intuitive eating, or is that something you learned more from the carnivore side of things?
A bit of both, actually. The less crap I ate, the more intuitive I got. And now I'm so metabolically flexible that I'm literally in and out of, say, ketosis, or I can tell, right? You can too. When your brain's clear, you're like, okay, I'm functioning like a human's supposed to. This is how I catch my next prey. This is, I'm sharp, I'm focused, I'm fast, as opposed to if I'm maybe, eating a bit of rice or a bit of naan or something like that. And I'm like, okay, if I was an ancestor, I'm going to be starving in the cave
Mm,
because I'm not going to be able to catch the beastie. So, yeah, I think it's something that it's been built up over 5 years. And carnivore definitely has sharpened my senses and sharpened my intuition
yeah,
without a doubt.
yeah.
It's just got the more, further and further and cleaner I've gone with my food, the more and more sustainable that is, and the more I can actually hear my body going, no, that doesn't serve you.
Yeah, and I think that's where we want to be at, really, because nobody wants to be counting points or calories or macros, whatever it is, the rest of their life. They want to just be able to open the fridge and say, "Yeah, what do I want to eat today?" There you go,
Yeah.
job done.
Yeah.
Um, can we talk a little bit about the keto retreat and these conferences that
Yeah.
you're putting on? Because I know you are very, very passionate about that, but it's a big undertaking, and we've spoke privately on that. Why go to the effort?
Because I'm a dunderhead. No, because I thought it was a good idea. No, look, it's been about a month now, and to be fair, the stress actually knocked me on my ass. Can I say that here?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Um, It was incredibly stressful. I don't think I'd realised quite how much I'd bitten off. So, we had 13 speakers. We had 5 or 6 simultaneously running cooking classes. The food bill for that weekend was $3,000 plus. So, that gives you an idea of the amount of, shopping and preparation. However, I just feel like people need to know about this. And the groundswell is the tide is coming, it's turning. And when you bring together a group of passionate individuals who have the science, like you and, Dr. Lucy and Dr. Mary. I spoke at their low carb roadshow, Adelaide, Brisbane, Cairns, and you meet all these people like yourself. And that's, where we've connected. You meet these people who make you feel like you're not so alone, and you meet your tribe. And so the retreat is about connecting the people who need it with the people who can provide that information. And now that we can all get together and learn, those events are tribal. And so what I mean by that is you get to be with your peers. So low carb down under was my first experience, probably like yours. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, I'm not here on my own. I'm not doing this by myself. There's actually people and there's science and there are people in our country doing this. And so then I went to the low carb roadshow and I'm like, I could do that. And I was recording my podcast with people like you and some of these other people. I'm like, do you want to come and talk and if I organize an event, do you want to come and talk? And they're like, yeah. And then, Keto Loco and, all of these people, it's just a way of connecting the tribe because we're not individual animals. We're not born to be by ourselves, are we?
No, you're not. We're not. And I mean, you were very kind to invite me down, of course, and it was a really great conference. I learned a lot. But yeah, it's a lot of stress, I imagine. I mean, I was saying to you privately afterwards, I couldn't imagine trying to pull something like that together. So props to you, absolutely, for trying to put that together. I know these are very hard. Where do you think we're kind of going with the future then of education around nutrition? I think that's a good segue into that. Is the message getting out that maybe there's better ways of eating, or is there still work to be done?
I think there's a lot of work to be done. And you're at the cold face. You're seeing people come in with type 2 diabetes, I presume, and that you're going, okay, well, it's kind of simple. I got kicked off a Facebook forum the other day because someone's like, my husband. Well, you're successful when you've been bred
That's
up,
right? Yeah.
Well, she's like, I'm trying to find a protein ball recipe for my husband who's got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And I'm just going, get him off sugar. I'm turning into the keyboard warrior. And I must have got a bit ferocious because, yes, all of a sudden, next minute, somebody's replied and going, oh, that's a bit full on. I'm like, no, you can reverse it with food. Next minute, can't see any of the posts. So in answer to your question, I when I started this 5 years ago, I started doing markets, and because I was like, okay, well, what do we use if we're not using sugar and we're not using flour and we're not using milk? What do we use? So I worked out where to find good quality almond flour and which sugar substitutes to use, and I ended up having a stall. And I went to the markets and I would sell my book and, that turned into courses and stuff like that. But when I started, people were like looking at me from across the oval and they're like, okay. They were sort of, walk in a semicircle around my stall. Now they can't. Now they come towards me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were. They were literally like, "Oh, don't make eye contact. Don't make eye contact with the crazy lady." Now they literally come at me, and that has changed in the last couple of years.
Okay.
So yeah, people when you know, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think anyone who's done keto or carnivore knows that it's sustainable and knows that, okay, if I fall, and I know it works, if I fall off, and that's the hard bit to get back on, but they know it works. And so they become this advocate. And I think that's the biggest thing that goes against us. We become so excited by the possibilities that it might scare people.
Sometimes I think that is probably true, and there's probably people out there that have seen me as patients probably thinking the same thing. It's hard when you're passionate. It's hard to kind of turn it off and then say yes, look, here's your prescription, off you go. you kind of like, yeah, here's your prescription, off you go. But have you thought about changing your diet? And they're like, and they're like, yeah, not really. I'm not interested. I don't push it on people, but it's hard when you are passionate. You've mentioned almonds a couple of times. Now, one of the things that probably some of my listeners, some of my viewers are going, oh my God, the oxalates, the oxalates, the oxalates.
Yeah.
Is that something that you worry about with what you're eating, with keto, with these almond flours? Or is it a case of, you know what, it's a small amount, who cares?
I think it's a bit of both. When you start, presumably you've come from such a shit processed food diet anyway, that almond flour is probably, and the oxalates are probably the least of your worries. And so as you come off sugar and as your food gets cleaner, I think then you can start to remove things like oxalates and almond flour, and you can find substitutes. I can't tell you the last time I ate a cookie dough ball. I just don't eat them
Mm,
anymore. But I think they're useful if you aren't an all or nothing kind of person and you don't wake up one day and go, right, I'm going carnivore. I'm going to do it. Like, I could never have done that. Over this journey of 4 or 5 years, and of ultimately finding I feel better on a carnivore diet, I think that I can't really go back. So for me, I think the little steps and the little switches. So my course is called Pivot, and it's just those tiny, tiny, tiny little shifts, because I don't think everybody's born to do it in one fell swoop.
mm. Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I was lucky, I think, probably because I'd come from a background of fasting, low carb, keto. I mean, and repeatedly failing keto, but still a background of keto, and nonetheless, so it was.
What do you think you like? What booted you off keto? Why did you fall off?
For me, like I'm just a food addict, sugar addict, food addict, and I was always that loophole guy. Like combined, just the dopamine effect of the sugar. It was too drawing to me.
Yeah.
Um, and my impression of keto was always like, oh, you have like a little bit of meat, and then you just have like a shit ton of vegetables, and then maybe
Okay.
like some fat because it's keto, but you're just really not eating carbs. And
Yeah.
whilst I felt really good doing keto on the whole, it was always just kind of hard because it was like just
Yeah.
mountains of vegetables and like just, yeah, like we'd get like a stir fry pack of veg or something, frozen veg, and just like a 2 kilo bag. My wife and kids would have like a quarter of it, and then I'd have 3/4 of the bag, like in one meal, like just ridiculous amounts. So it was quite expensive because of that as well. But I think I was
Mm.
probably just doing keto wrong, like in retrospect.
Hmm.
But that, I think, for me was why I struggled, and probably why I kept wanting the sugar, because I was actually just underfeeding myself,
Yeah.
and I was just.
Because we've still got that portion control thing going on too in the back of our
Yeah, I
heads.
think I just didn't know what I was doing. And I'd read stuff, and I'd read like Diet Doctor and other websites. I listened to people talking, and it was all about just, oh, just reduce the carbs. That's what it was. Oh, it's just low carb. It's just really low carb. That's all it was. I think keto's more than just low carb. That's probably
Hmm.
what I was missing there. Um,
Mm.
how do you think people should kind of get into keto if they're interested in going into the low carb keto carnivore route? What would you recommend people start to do to start that process?
Find the switches for the things you love. That, I reckon, that is the easiest thing. So if you love a bit of a snack and you like your cheese and bickies, you could absolutely do the cheese. You could do cheese, a good quality salami. Some people are going to be going, "Oh, not the salami!" But again, it's still better than that packet of Doritos. I think I think we can be really purist once we've been on this for a long time, and we sort of forget where we came from. So I'll say to people, okay, put the cheese at eye level where you can see it. Find the things that you love the most and find the replacement. So if you like rice, you can make cauliflower rice, but eat your meat first. So if they're going carnivore, I mean, obviously you're going to be a lot more informative than me because your route's been very different to mine. But if they're coming off processed food, I don't think you can afford to sweat the small stuff. So, okay, what is it that I really love? I love cheesecakes. So I found a way around it.
Mhm.
I think the most important thing is eat seasonal, eat fresh, eat your protein first. So if you're eating your protein and your healthy fats together, so, a beautiful bit of real salmon or a beautiful ribeye fillet, those lamb chops with the little tails, if you're eating 3 or 4 of them, you're not craving anything
Mhm.
else. And you alluded to that when you were saying about the veggies. Like 3/4 of my plate is meat if I'm having vegetables. And then I've just, got this little tiny serving of veggies. And I was trained keto coach by Eric Berg, and he's like 7 cups of veggies a day. I'm like, I can't actually eat that much. Like, and my body doesn't want it. Whereas if I eat 5 lamb
Yes.
chops, my body's like, yep, we're good,
Yeah.
and my sleep's deep, and I'm like, I just cope better. So my suggestion, pick a protein, add a healthy fat, and if you need it, add some veggies if you must go there. And eat the veggies that are seasonal and in season right now, and them because they're the cheap
Mhm.
ones.
Yeah.
But Dr. Nellum, she's on the north side of Brisbane. She's talking about the other day, you need the equivalent of, what was it, 5 chicken breasts for a 70-kilo woman. 5 chicken breasts a day. I mean, most of us don't get that much protein unless we're eating a weighted carnivore type diet.
Yeah, most people just chronically undereat protein, and then they're trying. I mean, I actually saw this today. A parent brought their kids in, just cold and flu type stuff, but they kept saying, why are they so sick all the time? And I said, well, they're probably iron deficient because everybody is. They're probably zinc deficient because everybody is. What is it they eat? That's the my first thing is what are they eating? And she went through it. She's like, oh yeah, it's a pretty healthy diet. I'm like, no, what are they actually eating? Don't just say it's healthy. What are they eating? Oh, it's like up and go for breakfast, and then it's one of them has like Fruit Loops, and then they have like a banana maybe later, and then they have like pancakes for lunch, and then they have like maybe some pasta for dinner. I'm like, okay, like where's the meat? And she's like, oh yeah, like we put pasta, we put meat with the pasta. I'm like, okay, is it pasta and meat? And then my listeners, I'm saying, big pasta, little meat, or is it, little big meat, little pasta? And she's like, yeah, no, it's like little meat, big pasta.
Yeah.
I said, oh yeah, but I don't know why they get sick because they occasionally have a strawberry. And it's like that's the, and I'm not making fun of this person at all, like that, but that's the level of nutritional knowledge that's out there. Like you can eat garbage as long as you eat a strawberry every once in a while and get some vitamin C. Like you're fine. Why would you possibly get sick? It's crazy.
I'm laughing because the dietary guidelines are so freaking
Yeah, but that's the
ridiculous.
kind of thing they
That's what it
say.
set us up. Yeah.
That's it. It's like, but isn't that the guidelines? Like, oh my God, like, yeah, actually it kind of is the guidelines. That's the thing. It's sad really. I'm conscious of time, Emma, because I know you've got some time limits. It's been great talking to you today, and hopefully my viewers and listeners have learned quite a lot from you. Where can people go to find you? And is there anything else that we haven't spoken about that you wanted to add before we end?
All I'll say, guys, is turn the food pyramid upside down. Eat your meat first, and then you can put everything else aside. You can find me. I'm on Facebook. You can look up Emma Martin. If you look up The Lazy Keto Mum, you'll find me. My website is Keto Capers, both with ks.com.au. And yeah, you can find me there. I think, one of the things that I think is really important is for us to teach our kids. So the cooking classes I do in the local school where we had retreat, they've got the food pyramid posters up on the wall. That curriculum is still being taught to our children. We need to help them understand that food not only, like you're saying, supports the immune system, but it means that you can function better in every single facet. of your life. You cope better, you have better relationships, you have food freedom, you cope better with stress. And if you don't do anything else, go clean in your food and seasonal. And that's really this, I just think, the message that I would love people to take away from what we've spoken about today.
Yeah, no, I think you are absolutely, absolutely on the money there. Thank you so much, Emma, for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. It's always nice to talk to you. And appreciate you giving us your time this evening.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you for being an enlightened doctor and leading from the front.
Oh, look, I've said it many times before. I take my hat off to people that have come before me. I'm not doing anything special. It's the people that have come before me. I've said it multiple times. Gary Fettke, Tim Noakes, these people, Sean Baker over in the States, these are people that had their livelihoods threatened, taken away, some of them, for actually speaking the truth and saying there's actually a better way. And we don't have to all have this metabolic syndrome, be overweight, be unhealthy anymore. We actually can just eat decent food and actually be healthy. Don't need to take all those drugs all the time. So these are the people I'm just following in their footsteps.
Well, that takes some brave. So go you.
A little bit, but I'm just doing what I can. So, but I appreciate you saying that. Well, thank you again, Emma, for coming on the show. I really do appreciate it. And thank you for all the listeners and viewers that have watched this episode. We'll see you guys in the next episode.